Hi, my name is Jonathan, and I'm an economist, and I wanted to create a video talking about the concept of virtue signaling in lieu of how many times I've seen it posted online as a pejorative statement. You normally see these kinds of comments on videos talking about any type of social justice content on YouTube or really any discussion left of center in the United States. But I wanted to take a moment in this video to analyze what a virtue signal even is and ask, is it a bad thing? And possibly address the great irony of those who use it as an insult. So I guess before talking about what a virtue signal is, it's important to talk about what a signal is. And there are multiple theories of signaling, but the one that I'm most comfortable with is the economic theory of signaling. So in economics, a signal is basically any time that one person wants to give information about who they are to another person. The idea of signaling in economics was really invented by a guy named Michael Spence, based on his observation that employers needed to be able to find good employees, but literally anyone off the street can claim to be a good employee. So, signals would be something that applicants would use to differentiate themselves from one another. So, in the employment market, a signal would be something like a college degree or a certificate of higher learning. So, to think about this in a practical example, imagine you're an employer and you're hiring for a job and you get two applicants. One applicant has a college degree and the other one only has a high school degree. Now, this job that you're hiring for doesn't necessarily require a college degree to perform, but you do know that people who have gotten college degrees tend to be a little bit smarter and harder working, and they might handle pressure better than people who only graduated high school. And so you ultimately pick the person who went to college, even though the job doesn't necessarily require that education. But speaking of high school degrees, in the past, a high school education was a strong enough signal on its own to get a job at most places. But nowadays, you need a bachelor's degree to just maybe get an internship. And this is one of the key insights about signals. It's that they can actually degrade over time. So in the 50s, the high school degree was a good enough signal to land most people a job, primarily because not everyone had a high school degree, and they were seen as being a little bit more difficult to get than just a general education. However, as educational standards got better and getting a high school degree became more common, societally, we placed less value on having a high school degree. Because of this, we saw a rise of people with bachelor's degrees getting employment. And that is primarily why most millennials were told by their parents to go get a college degree, because their parents had seen the transition in the labor market where people with high school degrees now couldn't get the same jobs they used to be able to. However, now bachelor's degrees are becoming more common, and as more people have them, the signal sent by a bachelor's degree is decreasing the same way the signal sent by the high school degree once did. Now, many kids graduate from college and are unable to find jobs because the strength of their signal has diminished so much. However, it should also be noted that not all bachelor's degree signals actually diminish at the same rate. And this brings us to another key insight about signals, and that's they can have qualitative differences as well. So, for instance, let's say that you got a bachelor's degree from an Ivy League university. With that bachelor's degree from an Ivy League university, you would probably qualify for many jobs that require a master's degree in the standard market. This is because Ivy League schools have spent a large amount of money trying to convince the society that we live in that having a degree from their university is special in some way, even if the curriculum is roughly the same between an Ivy League school and a public school. They've formed in the general population's mind an idea that they're the most selective when taking in students, and that it's even difficult for those students to graduate from the university Thus, even having a bachelor's degree from any Ivy League school is roughly the same equivalent as having a master's degree from a normal public university. This qualitative difference has led Ivy League schools' degrees to have stronger signals in the labor market. But economic signals extend far beyond things like degrees and employers. People can signal their level of wealth just by the types of products that they buy. So, for instance, I want to talk about a local diet soda that we have here in the Midwest, known as Diet Right. Diet Right is fundamentally the same product as Diet Coke. It tastes identical, but it's slightly cheaper. However, when people's level of income rises, most people substitute away from buying Diet Right. Because Diet Right is considered a cheaper product, having a Diet Coke is a signifier of having more wealth, even though you could get more product if you just bought Diet Right. I want to bring this back around to the concept of virtue signaling. It's a commonly used pejorative by the right wing to describe when people care a lot about a specific issue that right-wingers don't think is very serious. However, it's deeply ironic. All a virtue signal is when two people want to signal that they like or share a common interest. A real-world example of this would be to say, imagine you're a new guy at work and it's your first day. You could wear a shirt with your favorite sports team's logo on it. By doing so, you're signaling that you like this sports team and that you follow the sport, and that you might want to be friends with people who also like that sport. Just wearing that shirt is a form of virtue signaling. Signaling, and especially virtue signaling, go beyond products and markets. They extend to the very type of language that we use. It's why it feels awkward when you go over to your grandma's house and she calls people of color blacks. This term is heavily associated with racism in the United States, but it's a very unique term to analyze in any depth, because if you look at the history of people using the term blacks, it actually originated as an early form of political correctness by baby boomers to avoid using words that they considered to have a stronger racial connotation. However, we have seen how some baby boomers treat people of color, and they don't treat them as equals. And so now we associate that term with racist beliefs. The once positive signal sent by using that word has been warped over time to become a negative signal. Similar to how the high school education once sent a positive signal about being a good worker, but now isn't considered a positive or negative symbol. This insight can help us understand why terms that are labeled politically correct change over time. This also illustrates why it's important to be adaptable when it comes to the type of language that we use, because the type of language that is considered politically correct today most likely will not be considered politically correct even 20 years from now. So it's important to have flexibility in the type of language you use, because if you continue to let your vocabulary stagnate, you'll likely send signals to listeners that you don't mean to. When your grandma likely uses those terms, she might not actually mean it in a racially pejorative sense. But that is the key power of signals in language. You can use them to demonstrate beliefs about a whole group of people with very select words. But now that we've talked about what virtue signaling is, I want to talk about the great irony of the right using the term virtue signaling as a pejorative. See, the term virtue signaling itself has become a virtue signal on the right. People use the term to signal the fact that they're indifferent to what a speaker has to say, simply because their politics do not align with what they personally believe. So let's say you're on YouTube and you're watching a video about toxic masculinity and its effects on male portrayal in film. And you scroll down after the video is done and look in the comments section, and you see some right-wing troll has posted something about how the video's author is an SJW cuck virtue signaler. What they're trying to do is signal to other right-wing viewers of the video that the opinions expressed within shouldn't be considered because they don't align with their political framework. On the flip side, however, you can use virtue signaling positively by using people-first language and inclusive language for people with disabilities. You can enable a more tolerant and open society, and you can easily identify people around you that share these similar beliefs. Ultimately, I think signaling is a very powerful tool. We use it almost every day in our lives, and we don't really think about it at all. We send signals from the type of language that we use, to our body posture, to just the types of products that we buy. I actually think the term virtue signaling is a good term, one that should even be used academically, but we need to take it back from the trolls who use it to virtue signal amongst themselves. Yeah, so this is the end credits, and I want to thank you guys for watching this. This video is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, and this is my first ever real YouTube video, so I hope you liked it. If you guys would like, I'd love to hear your comments about your thoughts about signaling and how it's used in everyday life. When I was in college, I read lots of papers in economics about signaling, but one that I found the most interesting was Akerlof's A Market for Lemons. I'm going to provide a free link to that paper down in the description, so if anyone wants to do some more reading, they can. So yeah, I'm really interested in hearing what you guys have to say, and I might make a follow-up video to respond to some of the comments on this video. If you guys have any other ideas for topics that intersect economics and politics, let me know. I'd love to make more of these, and thank you for watching.